The subject of this whole program is exposing the world, and since this world is run by evil forces, mainly the Satan, most of this project will be about the Satan. But nevertheless, I need to say a few things about Elohim, because although technically he might appear to take a back seat, he's got a very important role, and he didn't desert the world as some might say. He has to give a Satan his option to do what he wants to do until legally Elohim can take the world back. Again, he cannot get involved out of pity or because he wants to, or because he's just stronger. He has to do it according to the laws that he himself declared. Elohim, although is not active in world events as much as the Satan, is definitely involved in human behavior and in human fate. And each person can and should have a relationship with Elohim on a personal level. We live in a world which is dominated by sin. Adam sinned against Elohim, and the sin went through the blood to his sons and so and so. So sin is actually in every human being from birth. That's the reason we die. The result of sin is death. And even babies, or even people sometimes before even born, that die. And people say, how that? Technically, it's justified in a sense that there is a sin in the human soul from conception. And that's, maybe some people would look at it as sad reality, and it is, but that's a fact. And again, we have to act by fact, not by emotions. And that's what explains how come even babies suffer or die or whatever. Now, just to remind you, there's also a lot of good. Don't focus on the bad, because the good is always the resurrection. Remember, the gospel is called the good news for a reason. We live in a world which is dominated by evil and cruelty and death, but there is good beyond the surface, and that's what I want to talk on this segment. And it won't be the issue of this project, but it has to be in the end of your mind, because I'm going to talk a lot about terrible things in this program, but it's not in order to get you panic. It's in order to warn you, to tell you, listen, be careful. That's what's going on. You have to choose the good, not the evil. Even though the evil is more plentiful and more available and more tempting, there's always, you have to look for the good, because the good is there. And the good is actually easy even. It's just a matter of ignorance that people don't choose good. The first thing that Elohim offers us is salvation. And salvation, it means that not that we live happy with no problems of that. It means that He promises us that we're going to get the resurrection. That's for most times. It doesn't beam us out of here immediately into paradise. Now, even after the salvation is promised to us, we still live normal life. Have to deal with all the daily things that everybody else has to deal, and relationship, jobs, and so on. But we have promised the salvation is we promise the resurrection. And the consequences of sin is death. Therefore, we deserve to die. That's by justice. As cool as it sounds. But Elohim put a way for people to be cleared out of their sins. And this is by sacrifice. And the logic behind the sacrifice is that since you need to die, Elohim is willing to accept somebody else to die instead of you. And in the Old Testament, He established this sacrifice for sins, but it was inferior. We human, we used to sacrifice animals which are inferior to us. It wasn't a complete good trade-up. It wasn't actually even a justified trade-up. As you'll see, that sacrifice in the Old Testament was just to represent something else. It wasn't even that sacrifice itself that cleared us. And that's the logic, a soul for a soul. That's the justice. Everything is according to justice, not emotion, justice.